The next that you would think about would be people sometimes hear the idea of pay yourself first. So,
Mhm.
save to the 401k, save to the taxable account, fund your Roths, fund your kids' 529s, whatever those goals are that you have for yourself, whether it's saving for a down payment on a home or do all those things first. And then you get to live off of the rest.
Scott, what is going on?
What's up, man? Just
Good
another
to see
beautiful
you.
day.
Right?
Yeah.
Weather's here. Sunny Southern California. We're recording this late June. 4th of July is right around the corner. Oh, the beach is calling, my friend.
It is. Yes.
It is.
100%.
Something's been on my mind. Mainly because we had just booked our vacation, and
Mm-hmm.
it got me thinking about. I'm so happy that we have a system in our household about finances and goals and money and just how chaotic it was before that we had that in place.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking of how we translate that into transforming our clients' lives.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us are very similar clients in different capacities, and oftentimes when we have those high earning clients earning three, four, $500,000 or more, they're doing everything right. They have some sort of a system, right? And that becomes, I would say, to some extent, a little easier when we have more money and we could allocate it here or there. But
Mm-hmm.
they're maxing out their retirement account, and honestly, I found the word budget. It's like a four-letter word. At times, people don't want to hear it, right?
Yeah.
Um, here's oftentimes what we see, or at least in my experience, the income's there, right? The accounts are growing, but sometimes there's some anxiety still that really hasn't been touched on because the money isn't really being optimized. We should. That's where the should start creeping in. We could be doing more. And so it's not really a savings problem. It's just a systems problem. And that's what I want to unpack today. It's just let's talk about all the different systems because there's a couple different ones
Sure.
and figure out, as we go through them, what works for you, what doesn't. But having a system in place, man, really helps reduce the anxiety.
Yeah, and for the listeners at home, he's talking about cash flow and budgeting is a four-letter word, as he alluded to. The thing is, when it comes to helping people achieve their financial life goals, cash flow is the way.
Mhm.
There's not another way. So you can do it in a crude manner. You can say what you're going to do and then not follow through on it, which is like me saying I'm going to stretch for more mobility when I surf and then I never do. Or you can build a system so you actually do what you're going to do without needing willpower to make it happen. And that's ultimately what we're looking at today. Anytime you have something in your own life, whether it's your financial life or just larger life, whenever you can create a system or utilize a system to remove, I think of it as like removing a boulder from a trail so you don't have to climb over something anymore. You just get to walk right on by. It doesn't take as much energy. The better off you are. So yeah, all for it, man. And we see this for our clients all the time. And to your point about systems, the biggest thing that I see for people wanting creating financial freedom for themselves, which is normally what people are aiming for when they're building wealth, a cash flow system will help you do that faster than anything if you set it up properly, because you won't have cash just sitting stagnant on your balance sheet, earning nothing at a savings account or checking account at a bank. It'll actually be deployed, which is what you want. So yeah, man, let's dive right in.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. It's this idea of like this is the only way, right? There's no other way around it. Like, how do we have to build a system? Now, there's a number of systems we have to figure out as we go through them, which one works for each person, each couple, so on and so forth. But there's no other way. And when we could do this, it brings down that anxiety. And to the last point you made, like it puts your money to work. Oftentimes we just see money sitting there, and sometimes it's 2, 3, 4, or even 6 months since we last checked in. And we go, how long has that been sitting there, that cash? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we could be putting that to work. And so that's what we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
unpack
Yep.
today. Now I
Dive
look at
in,
it, I
man.
see
Go for it.
yeah, I see a couple different ways. When people are most familiar with cash flow systems, there's the zero-based budgeting approach where we assign everything a job. Every dollar has a job. We put it to work. This often looks like writing out all of your expenses, your mortgage, your insurances, your Costco bill, Amazon, and then assigning $1 in a category to that.
Mm-hmm.
This for me, it creates a lot of anxiety. Like everything has to go right. But nothing gets left behind if we're really thorough about it. And so
Mm-hmm.
we could break that down before we dive into some other ones as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine to give the overarching view on all three. So the next that you would think about would be people sometimes hear the idea of pay yourself first. So,
Mhm.
save to the 401k, save to the taxable account, fund your Roths, fund your kids' 529s, whatever those goals are that you have for yourself, whether it's saving for a down payment on a home or do all those things first. And then you get to live off of the rest.
And then, we have in our household, I'll say like a variation of that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is we create um, two separate accounts, right? And then paying ourselves first,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have our discretionary expenses, that's our fun money. We love that bucket.
Mm-hmm.
But then we also have our fixed expenses. And we've set up a way where when we get paid every 2 weeks, money gets allocated into each of those two buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And that one with our fixed expenses, it's going to be drained down every single month. And those expenses are consistent. And we know everything that goes into the fund bucket, that's free game. But in doing that, we've been able to also allocate to our 401ks, our savings account, our brokerage. And point being, there's a system there. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then the last one we have percentage based. And this is essentially just having a fixed allocation, right? And this oftentimes works for two income households where we're trying to simplify, especially, and we can talk about this at length, when we have those irregular paychecks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Think about like RSUs and equity comp or big bonuses, maybe once or twice a year,
Yeah.
or we could look at, when we have bigger expenses too, and breaking that down like an insurance payment over the course of 12 months and paying it off once or twice.
Yep.
How do we start to allocate it this way? So, it's confusing, but when we find a framework and we stick to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually think that all three of those break pretty easy with lumpy income.
Yeah. That's where we see
Um,
a breakdown.
so, like a lot of our clients are in executives in tech and biotech, it's kind of the core of who we work with. And, especially once they're publicly traded companies, you have your salary, which is what most people are trying to live off of. They may need a part of that bonus to make that happen too. But the bonus is a bit lumpy. And then, of course, the RSUs are very lumpy, um, happening on a quarterly basis. And
Mhm.
so it kind of breaks the system of the
Mhm.
three traditional systems that were laid out for us thus far. Um, I am a huge fan of just adding another one little layer to this, and you can decide what you want to do thereafter. Um, the way that we do it at our house is we just have one account that all income goes into.
Mhm.
So we kind of think of it as like a hub for like all cash flow. So, I pay myself a salary and business distributions. So that's how all cash flow comes in, and business distributions are lumpy. They happen on a quarterly basis. Salary happens on a biweekly basis. So the team gets paid on a biweekly basis, right? So that's happening. That money's coming into the accounts. Now, my wife and I, based on pick your poison for which system do you want to live off of, we've decided here's how much we need to live. Some of it's our fixed costs, some of it's our discretionary costs. But what we do is from that hub account on a monthly basis, the hub account pays our mortgage. It pays any expense that is fixed automatically for us. And the only thing that we push over to our Wells Fargo account is our discretionary money.
Yep.
It's what we get to live on for the month. So it's basically us saying, here's what we get to live on as for a family. Now, in both of those accounts, we keep watermarks. So the watermark of the hub account is basically our emergency fund as a family. And it's holding a US money market fund because we use a brokerage account actually to do this that we turned into a checking account. So by doing that keeps a safe amount. So if we ever had to dip into it, we could if a business distribution didn't happen and we had to fund life, right? That's what an emergency fund's for. on the Wells Fargo account, we keep a watermark for it as well. But there we're basically checking ourselves against consumption. So we're saying, I'm just going to make up a number. Let's say you spend $10,000 a month and you keep $10,000 as your safety amount. All you have to know, we go use credit cards and we don't use debit cards. And at the end of the month, we pay it off. And the question is, did we dip underneath 10 grand? If we did, we have a spending problem. If we didn't, we're good. Right? Now, with those things handled, everything else, we've made a choice as to where are we saving and why. So every time we have money above that watermark in that account, it automatically gets pushed to goals that we have. So it's saving for the kids to go to college. It's saving for our own retirements. It's actually we do it inside the account, but it's saving for our consumption of vacations that are coming up. Right? So like we're constantly just letting the system work for us so we don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing.
Absolutely. And you know what I'm hearing too, when it comes to, we'll say for lack of better words, lumpiness, whether it's income coming in, like your hub, in irregular times, or those big one-off expenses, call it travel, vacation, presents, what have you, or property taxes.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you saving in advance? Right. I always like to say you don't need a reason to save. Just do it. And life will create enough of its problems that you'll be glad you did.
Yeah.
Right. But you have a system, which is so great. Right. Because when I look at, for our vacation, we're like, yeah, maybe we'll spend 3, 5, a couple $1,000s, just depending. Well, we're not going to do it all at once. And so I think like when people get a bonus or an RSU, how could we, and it sounds like it's included into your hub. Our family, we use a little bit of a different system where we have like a drop down account or an envelope, so to speak, where we could sub label categories and we just allocate it into that, even though we know, hey, we probably just depleted our vacation account for the next couple months, but as new money comes in, we'll replenish it. Right. Yeah. And we see that for a lot of big categories too. Right.
And it just requires to be intentional about what do we want to do. And then you go try. I think the biggest reason why a lot of people don't want to budget is they don't know. We're horrible at mentally accounting for all the spending that we do in our lives. That's one. And then two is you kind of feel you're judging yourself. And there's also can be a little bit of a guilt associated with, we just spent how much on vacations this year? Like, dude, there's like kids that can't afford to eat, or can't have meals. And we just did what? So it's like, there's this little bit of, it's just about to me, it's about being intentional about who are you in life? What do you want to be doing? And then just setting up the system so it does it for you.
Yeah, and I think this is always a great audit, regardless of what system that you end up implementing. Go find one that works for you. Try them out. Right. But even as we're doing the audit of like understanding, learning, where is my money going? It's a great exercise to learn more about that, because I think about the Ramit Sethi quote all the time of like, how do we ruthlessly eliminate the expenses that we know that aren't really that important, but they're continuing to eat away, right? They're the hidden costs. And how do we maximize the things that really bring us joy? My wife and I, we spend way more than probably people should on a gym membership, but we love it. We don't have to apologize to anybody else. But there's a lot of things that we say no to, so we could say yes to that because it's important to us. And so going through and doing an audit of just understanding where money's going is such a fruitful exercise. And then just creating that alignment.
Well, it really ties back to who am I as a human being? And what does it look like for me to live a life in which I'm flourishing?
Yes.
And for you and your wife, that is health and wellness and coaches and like caring for yourself. And you can easily say to yourself, you can judge yourself. You kind of did in that moment right there. But instead, just be like, yeah, this really matters to me, so I'm going to invest in it.
Well,
and by choosing to invest in this, there'll be other things I choose not to invest in. Just as there can be someone who loves shopping at like designer stores. And, you'd think like that's someone else will be like, that's horrific. But for them, that's what they love to do. So good on them if that's what they love to do. As long as that works for them and it helps them get where they want to go and achieve the things they want to achieve. Great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to make a joke there. Within our systems, right, we each have our own personal accounts and we love fitness. But you know what? From my own personal account, I also love a good donut every once in a while. And I gave myself that. That was from the solo account. So wifey didn't have to see that transaction. But,
Yeah.
if you're listening right now and realizing, hey, my system could use a little work or didn't even realize there was a system, we have a quiz for you and click on the link in the description below, fill that out, and we will get back to you with a link from the show notes on how we could assist. Now,
Yeah.
I think we spent a lot of time today, Scott, going through systems, automation, what works, maybe the psychology behind it as well, and figuring out that framework. I'd say I'd love to just close and figuring out, like, once we've built that, what are some of the things that once a system's in place that we should be attacking regardless of what system we use? Things like contributions, savings, those types of things as we close here.
Yeah, well, actually, I had one other thought as well,
Of
which is
course.
just that because, we actually the system that we're using of Hub Account, we're using it with clients, and we're just finding that so it's psychologically beneficial because it gets rid of a bit. It helps reduce the anxiety around cash flow, and you try to go look at the detail yourself.
Hmm.
Now, that said, um, my office manager and I next week are looking at every line item of every expense the business has to ask, is this helpful for us? Does this bring us value? Because if it doesn't, we shouldn't have it in the system because we can free up cash to do with other things, right? And to your point, we really want to be doing that probably like at least once a year in our personal lives. The amount of like little subscriptions that you have that you don't even think about, it just frees up cash to do other things. So just do that. But then two, the same thing we're talking about with cash flow for yourself. If you're a business owner listening to this, you can do the exact same thing with your business accounts, and that's what we do. So we make it so that all the cash flow comes into one account, right? It has a watermark for working capital, and then you have automate out all the things that need to be automated out. And then my distributions get to go from that account over to my personal account, right? Tax withholdings happen there too to make sure we're setting aside funds for taxes so that taxes aren't a problem. For business owners, it's a common problem. So
Absolutely.
it's just build the system to make your life easy. Um, but yeah, I don't think there's a universal, you know, a perfect answer for anyone. I think you just have to figure out what works best for you. Um, And but as far as like you were getting to contributions and savings rates and those things, I think that's where you want to be looking at who am I? What's a great life look like to me, and what am I building toward? And then you need to look at your based on what you're building toward and what you want a good life to look like. One of the things I think about with cash flow is I think like people think they have to cut themselves to the bone where they're not
Yeah.
enjoying their life.
Right.
That's not it. The question is what do I need to live a good life?
Hmm.
And what can I do with the excess cash to build a balance sheet for myself and my family so that we can be financially free?
Hmm. Yeah. I like that. And I think once you have that number, it's then creating the system around it so that you can thrive. I think the goal it's not to account for every dollar; it's just to stop wondering where it all went. Right. And
I
I think so many times we work with clients to like, let's just get the framework first. Let's figure out and chart on the map where we're actually going, and then build a plan backwards to allow our money to serve us.
I liken it to I'm starting to learn how to play golf, which is a very hard sport to learn.
Very.
Uh, and it's not about achieving perfection when you step out not knowing how to do something. You can apply this to anything.
Mhm.
The question is there a framework by which I can learn? And my goal is to get better over time. It is not to be perfect out the gate, right? So you want to build in some flexibility for yourself. You don't want to try to do it. I wouldn't try to do what was the name of it?
Zero based. Yeah, zero
Zero
based.
based budgeting. That would be
That's
scary
so
to me.
stressful. Yeah.
It's more so like, what do we think we need? Okay, let's go try it. And then you go
Hmm.
try it and you're like, ooh, I'm hitting my my watermark every single month. I guess I really actually need a little bit more to live life than what I thought I did. Okay, that's fine. It's a trade-off. By doing that, I'm not going to save as much, so I might have to work a little bit longer, where I might need to find ways to earn more income so I can do both.
Yeah.
Right. But it just is what it is.
Yeah. And then I love as well, like once you find that system that works for you, kind of the low hanging fruit that I was alluding to is like, and we've talked about it a little bit, but just go automate it then, right? Just the beauty of not only are all your bills on auto, but what I've found in it, it seems self explanatory, but when you automate your investing, like we already do that, your employer thankfully does that for you with your paycheck. But when you're above and beyond and ready to invest beyond your 401k, whether it's automating money coming into your account just to your high yield savings or to a brokerage account or elsewhere, and you don't have to think about it, right? And you set up that draft and money just gets sucked out and it's done.
Yeah.
That's so nice because to your point, you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, once you create that system and that framework, you get to spend freely with whatever's left.
Yes. And
You've been a good boy. You've already eaten your vegetables, right? And that's nice.
Yeah, the other thing I would say there is we're seeing it. We don't have enough clients doing the hub account system yet to say it's statistically significant, right? Because it's anecdotal at this point. But what you see is just automatically the savings rate for most people increases
Oh,
because
absolutely.
we don't have cash sitting around. If my wife and I have cash sitting around in a savings account long enough, we're gonna be like, what can we do with that? And it's usually not go save for financial freedom. It's usually like do a project around the house, get something new, do something. So there's something to be said for just having it set up. So I'm getting what I need and I'm checking in on, is that the right amount together as a couple? And then everything else gets automated. Because one of the things that we see in the work that we do, like Nick and I do with clients, when you're building toward retirement, you tell us what you're saving, all these things. We have to take it factually as that's what you're doing.
Right.
And there's always this room of unsaved cash that we considered to go into the ether for the planning so that it doesn't go anywhere. Well, if you take that and you go save it, like the speed at which you hit your goals is tremendously faster. So it's just amazing to see that. And I hope that this helps get you guys thinking about using a system.
Love it. So go out, test it out, pick a number to track, pick a system, see how it works, right? And have grace with yourself, right?
Yep.
Look back. And the important thing is that you're taking that progress.
Absolutely. All right. Well, until next time.
All right, Sat. See you later.